Some places don't exist on any map, but people still disappear there. Rangers hear things they're not allowed to talk about, whispers in the static, footsteps in snow that's untouched. This story isn't just about what was found, it's about something that never left. Keep your earphones on and close your eyes, and by any chance, don't look back. I've been a ranger for over 17 years. I've dealt with angry bears, drunk hikers, missing persons, even a meth lab hidden in the woods once. But nothing, I mean nothing, has ever rattled me like Trail 13. It's not on the maps anymore. Tourists don't know it exists. Hell, most of the younger rangers think it's just a maintenance path. But the veterans? We know better. There's a reason it was quietly removed from official routes. Trail 13 starts just off of Maine, hiking loop on the Tennessee side of the Smokies. The entrance is overgrown now, half buried under brush and fallen logs. It looks forgotten, but you can still find it if you know where to look. And I knew. It was late October, cold enough to see your breath after sundown. I pulled the short straw for the solo patrol that night. Routine check on Trail 7. Nothing out of the ordinary. Radio was quiet. Skies were clear. I parked the ATV by the North Loop and started walking. I don't know what pulled me toward Trail 13. Maybe curiosity. Maybe stupidity. I hadn't stepped foot on that trail in years. But something about that quiet night made it feel safe. I was wrong. I stepped past the broken marker, barely a plank now. Just the faded number 13 carved deep like it was scratched in with a knife. About 10 minutes in, the woods changed. You spend enough time in these forests, and you learn the difference between silence and emptiness. This was the latter. No owls, no rustling leaves. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. I remember looking at my watch. 9:23 p.m. Then I heard it. A single snap, like a branch underfoot. Not mine. Someone's following me. I stopped, turned slowly. Nothing. No movement. But the air felt heavier. I clicked on my shoulder radio. Base, this is Collins. On Trail 13. Just doing a quick check. All's quiet. Static. Tried again. Come in, Base. You copy. Dead air. Then, a whisper just behind me.
You shouldn't be here.
I spun around so fast I nearly tripped on a root. Nothing. No one. Just trees and dark. Except, I swear one of those trees was closer than before. Thicker. Wrong. It was like my brain couldn't focus on it directly, like looking at it too long would hurt. I kept walking, slowly. Every few steps, I'd glance behind me. I'm not paranoid by nature, but that night, I felt hunted. Around the 20-minute mark, I spotted movement up ahead. A shape, human-sized, standing dead still in the middle of the path. Hey, I called out. You're not supposed to be out here. Trail's closed. No response. Just standing there. I raised my flashlight. Empty trail. I blinked. My light glitched for a second, flickered like a dying bulb. Then the figure was gone. Here's where it gets weird. I turned back, ready to leave. I'd seen enough. My nerves were shot. But the path had changed. It looked unfamiliar. I knew these woods, knew every turn of that trail. But suddenly the trees were too close, the slope too steep. The trail was leading me deeper. I checked my watch again. 2:43 a.m. I had just looked at it. It was 9-something. I hadn't been walking that long. Finally, the radio chirped. Jake, can you hear me? It was muffled, like the speaker was wrapped in a towel. Copy, I said. Collins here. I'm on trail 13. Something's not right. You need to get off that trail. Right now? Do not look at it. Look at what? No answer. Then the woods around me erupted in noise, whispering voices all around me. Not words, not English, just breath. Whispers layered over whispers, like 100 mouths pressed to my ears. And in front of me, the same figure again. Closer now. No face, no features, just darkness in the shape of a man. I ran. No shame in saying it. I sprinted down that trail like my life depended on it. Because I think it did. The path twisted, narrowed, blurred. The trees seemed to lean in, trying to grab me. I swear the ground beneath me pulsed, like a heartbeat. Then, I tripped. I woke up in a clearing I didn't recognize. Flat ground, moon overhead, silent as death. My radio was buzzing. Jake, if you can hear this, we're tracking you. Stay put. 10 minutes later, I saw flashlights. My partner Daniel found me half covered in leaves. My gear scattered like I'd been dragged. My watch was broken. My compass spun in circles. Back at the ranger station, they asked what happened. I told them I got lost, saw a bear, hit my head. Standard cover-up story. I didn't mention the whispers, or the figure, or the fact that when I looked at the broken Trail 13 sign again the next morning, it was gone. I filed a report, an edited version. The senior officer just nodded and said, Trail 13 messes with everyone. You're not the first. That's all he said. That was 3 years ago. I've never stepped foot near that side of the forest again. If you ever find yourself near the Tennessee side of the Smokies and someone mentions an old trail with no name, don't go down it. And whatever you do, don't look at it. I'm Daniel Reeves, Fire Watch, BC Parks. I've been stationed at Elk Ridge Reserve, British Columbia, for just over 6 years. The job's simple enough on paper. Monitor weather patterns. Watch for lightning strikes. Ensure hikers follow burn bans. The terrain's gorgeous but volatile. Dry pine forests, deep valleys, strong winds. Perfect recipe for fire. There's one sector on the map we call Zone 7B. It's marked black, labeled as unsuitable for patrol. No trails go through it. It's officially off limits. Reason? 5 years ago, a forest fire scorched it bare. At least, that's what I was told. Late October. Overcast, moody skies. I was in my tower around 4 p.m. when a faint column of smoke showed on the west ridge, just near the edge of 7B. I radioed it in. Ranger Reeves to base. Seeing what looks like residual smoke activity northwest. Quadrant, just outside 7B. Copy. Could be smolder carryover. Do a sweep if it's reachable. But don't enter 7B, understood? Understood. I loaded up my gear. Brought my fire axe, radio, GPS, and a metal canteen. It wasn't far, maybe a 30-minute hike. The smoke looked light, not a wildfire. More like a controlled burn someone forgot to log. Or so I thought. The approach trail was dry and rocky. No wind, no birds, no signs of wildlife. I reached the burnt zone boundary, a rusty old warning sign that had faded into white blur. Beyond it, the forest looked like the skeleton of a graveyard. Charred trees, no leaves, no green, just gray earth and black trunks. Still, I stepped in. I shouldn't have. About 100 yards into the zone, I heard it. A voice. Thin, raspy, like someone with smoke in their throat, coming from behind one of the burnt trees up ahead. I froze. I radioed in again. Base, this is Reeves. I'm in visual range of smoke, but there's something else. Might be a lost hiker. No response. I moved toward the voice. Hey, this is Ranger Service. Call out if you need help. Nothing. Then again, closer. This time, I swear it was right next to me. But when I swung my flashlight to the side, nothing. My GPS flickered. Just went blank. My watch, too. I'd only been walking for maybe 20 minutes. But it suddenly read 8:07 p.m. The sun was still high a few minutes ago. Now it was gone. I felt the drop in temperature. Rapid. The air got thick. I could see my breath. That's not supposed to happen out here. I found a structure. A small shack. Wood, half burned on one side, but still standing. I approached slowly, announcing myself. I knocked. The door creaked open with the wind. Inside, it was pitch dark. Just embers glowing in a metal fire barrel. There was a chair, a map nailed to the wall. It looked fresh, not 5 years old. I saw my name on the map, scribbled in red ink. Reeves, X marked, current position. I staggered back. My flashlight flickered again. I turned around to leave, and someone was standing in the doorway. He was tall, skin pale and blistered like melted plastic, wearing an old Ranger jacket, but scorched and stuck to his arms. He didn't speak. He pointed to the back of the shack. Slowly. I didn't want to look, but I did. There were dozens of boots lined up along the wall. Ranger boots, all with name tags. I recognized some of the names. Old patrol files. Rangers who had gone missing in past decades. Presumed lost in fires or accidents. And there, in the last slot, a fresh pair. Mine. I ran. I didn't look back. The air howled around me like a furnace. The sky was wrong. A deep red swirl instead of black. I remember tripping, slamming my shoulder into a tree, scrambling up again, tearing through dead brush and cracked ash. My radio crackled. Reeves, do you copy? What's your location? I yelled into it. I don't know. Just get someone to the West Ridge. I passed the boundary sign again, and like a curtain being pulled, the world snapped back to normal. Birds chirping, distant winds, golden sunset glow. My GPS reconnected. My watch read 6:12 p.m. Back in real time, but I swear I had been in there for hours. When they found me back near the trailhead, I looked like hell, covered in soot, bleeding from cuts I didn't remember getting. They said I'd only been gone 45 minutes. They asked if I'd entered 7B. I lied, but one of the senior rangers pulled me aside later and whispered, "Did you see the shack?" I didn't answer. He just nodded. "We don't talk about 7B. You're not the first. The smoke I saw that day, no one else reported it. There was no fire, no heat signature. But that map in the shack, it had dozens of X's, and only some of them were crossed out. My name's Owen Hale. I took a 6-month seasonal ranger contract up in Alberta. Mostly remote patrol work, logging animal activity, checking boundary fences, making sure campers weren't lighting fires where they shouldn't. It was a good gig. Quiet. Easy money. Until I found the cabin. Well, it found me might be more accurate. I was covering Zone 4, about 15 miles off the main road. This area borders restricted wilderness, old growth. Forest that goes untouched unless there's a search and rescue op. There's this weird, unspoken rule at the station. If you see a cabin out there, walk the other way. At first I thought it was a joke. You know, ranger humor. Every profession has its haunted bathroom stall or cursed storage closet lore, but it came up too often. Cabin shows up sometimes. Different spot, same look. Don't knock. Don't go near it. And if you smell wood smoke where it shouldn't be, leave. It was early September, mid-shift, cool air, no wind. I'd just done a remote cam check and was heading back toward the ridge trail. My GPS pinged weird, location jittering slightly. Then I smelled it. Wood smoke. There was no one out there. No scheduled burns. No permits filed for backcountry camping in that sector. I followed the scent out of pure curiosity. I wish I hadn't. I saw it between the trees. Weathered timber, stone chimney, crooked porch. Like something from a Depression-era photograph. It shouldn't have been there. No tire tracks. No trail leading to it. The moss on the porch boards was unbroken. Untouched. Like it just appeared. Still, I approached. I told myself I'd radio it in. Maybe get a look inside for any squatters. But the closer I got, the more something in my gut screamed, don't. Just as I reached the steps, I heard it. A music box playing inside. Faint, high-pitched melody. The kind you'd hear in an old jewelry box. It was out of tune, too slow, like it was winding down. It stopped the second I touched the doorframe. And then a voice. Not a shout. Not aggressive. Just conversational. From inside the cabin. We already told you not to come back. I froze. I clicked my radio. Dead. Tried my phone. No service. The door was cracked open now. I hadn't touched it, but it had moved. I backed away, not taking my eyes off the doorway. I didn't see anyone inside, but I had this horrible feeling that if I stepped 1 foot onto that porch, I wouldn't come back. Then, as I turned to leave, something whispered behind me, inches from my ear. Run. I obeyed. I bolted through the trees, trying to retrace my steps. The forest didn't look right. Paths where there had been none. Rocks where I hadn't seen any before. I swear the woods themselves were trying to confuse me. It took me nearly 2 hours to find my way back to a marked trail. My compass had spun the entire time. My GPS never reconnected until I was halfway back to the watch station. Back at the station, I logged what I saw. But when I mentioned the cabin, the supervisor just looked at me with this tired, knowing expression. You're not the first, he said, and you won't be the last. He handed me a file, unlabeled. Inside were sketches of the same. Cabin from different years, different locations. Ranger reports going back to the 70s. All the same structure, same chimney crack, same warped door, same warnings. 3 rangers had gone missing near the cabin. One walked into it on a dare. Another followed a child's voice coming from inside. The third, his body was found days later. 5 miles away, face frozen in terror, eyes scorched black, no signs of fire around him. A week later, on my final patrol before my contract ended, I found it again. Different location. This time, it was perched near a small creek bend, where the floodplain was soaked and soggy. But the cabin was bone dry. Smoke curled from the chimney. A light flickered behind the curtain. I stood there for a full 5 minutes. Then I turned, walked away, and never looked back. Now that my contract's over, I can talk about it. That cabin isn't on any map. Doesn't show on satellite. Doesn't follow natural rules. But I'm convinced of one thing. It's not just a place. It's watching, waiting. And when you notice it, it notices you back. I'm Kyle Mercer. I've worked in wilderness fire service for over 12 years now. Most of that time in the Bitterroot Range of Montana. If you've ever driven through it, you know how massive it is. Thousands of acres of jagged terrain, snowcaps, pine valleys, and pure silence. I've seen a lot in these woods. Animals you don't want to meet at night. Hikers who didn't listen to warnings. Fires that moved faster than hell itself. But there's one thing that's never left me. What happened near Fire Tower 22? Tower 22 sits in a dead zone. Not for cell service, but for everything. Radios go fuzzy. GPS doesn't hold a signal. Birds don't fly there. You don't hear bugs buzzing. It's the quietest place I've ever been in the wilderness, and not in a peaceful way. It was built back in the 60s, tall, steel, skeleton frame tower, meant for wildfire spotting. But by the late 90s, it was decommissioned. No trails led directly to it anymore. It stood alone, surrounded by mossy foundation stones, remnants of something older than the tower itself. We were told not to go near those stones. No official reason, just one of those rules they slip into training. If you're near Tower 22, don't explore the stone base. Stay on patrol. I followed that rule for years, until one summer, when a lightning storm swept through the southern ridge, and a small blaze flared up near that exact spot. I had no choice. August 18th, 2022. I was the only available ranger in the zone. The fire was minor, smoke-only report from a hunter. I took the ATV as far as I could, then hiked in the last 3 miles with a thermal drone. My axe, a shovel, and a handheld radio. By the time I reached the tower, the smoke had stopped. Nothing. No scorched ground. No embers. No smell. My drone showed nothing on infrared. It was like the fire call never happened. But the weird part? My radio went dead. Battery was fine. Just static. And my compass needle kept wobbling like I was near a magnetic field. That's when I heard it. A deep, dull thud under my boots. I looked down and noticed the ground felt off, like packed earth over wood. I stepped back and stomped lightly. A hollow sound. The foundation stones nearby, square blocks of dark granite, were arranged in a rough rectangle. Inside that rectangle, the dirt was unusually smooth and settled. I took out my shovel and started digging, just to see. A few inches down, my shovel struck metal. It was a rusted steel trapdoor about 3 feet wide, bolted shut with a wheel-lock handle like something off an old submarine. The edges were caked with decades of dirt and roots. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. It took me 20 minutes to force the wheel to turn. When it finally gave, the hatch let out a hiss of foul, stale air. The kind of smell that says no one has breathed this in a very long time. I pointed my flashlight down. Stairs. Old concrete stairs, leading into blackness. I sent my drone down first. Its signal cut out after 15 feet. I clicked on my headlamp and followed. The air was dense and humid. Walls of crumbling cement, reinforced with rusted mesh. It looked like some Cold War-era fallout shelter. As I reached the bottom, the stairs opened into a narrow corridor, about 6 feet wide, 20 feet long, lined with doors, 5 on each side, steel, numbered. Each had a viewing slot. I looked inside the first room. Empty. Just a chair, a table, and something on the wall that looked like an 4-bracket. Second room, same. Third room, there was a mattress on the floor, covered in mold. Walls had scratch marks. Fourth room, completely black. No reflection from my light. I couldn't even see the back wall. Fifth room had a smear of something brown-red on the window. Old. Maybe rust. Maybe not. That's when I heard a voice. It was faint, not echoing through the corridor. It came from one of the rooms. The seventh, maybe the eighth. "Can you hear me?" I backed up, unsure if it was real. My radio crackled on suddenly. Just a burst of static. Then the lights flickered. There were lights down here. Ancient filament bulbs strung along the ceiling. They hummed to life all at once. "You opened it," the voice whispered again. "Now we can leave." I panicked. I turned to leave, but something caught my eye near the last door. A binder. Water damaged. Half eaten by mildew. Inside were pages labeled observation logs. Project Routewell. They were dated 1962 to 1969. Each log described a subject, numbered. All had the same phrasing. Subject continues to hear names and static. Subject dug at walls during night cycle. Subject 008 attempted self-release via exposure breach. Subject 012 no longer responds to human language. On the last page, handwritten in red ink, "Do not unseal the hatch. Routewell must remain buried." That was enough. I ran up the stairs. Didn't care what I left behind. As I climbed, I felt the pressure in my ears shift, like something was rising behind me. I slammed the hatch shut, turned the wheel until it locked, and buried it back under the soil as best I could. By the time I reached the tower base again, my radio worked. "Reeves, do you copy? We've got storm reports inbound. Get out of there." I didn't say a word. I just told them the smoke was a false report and hiked out. Back at base, I looked up Project Routewell. Nothing. No government files. No news. I asked my supervisor about Tower 22. He went quiet, then said, "Some sites weren't meant to be revisited. That ground's been closed since '69 for a reason." I told him about the hatch, the rooms, the journal. He just nodded. "We don't assign patrols to Tower 22 anymore. You should forget what you saw." I haven't gone back since. But sometimes, when I'm working late in the base tower, I hear a sound over the shortwave radio. A voice, my name, and the sound of metal grinding open. I'm Eli Ross. Been with the U.S. Park Service for nearly 14 years. Now, most of that time patrolling parts of Alaska that most people have never even seen on a map. Denali National Park is bigger than some countries. Once you get deep enough, it's just you, the wind, and whatever's left from a time before humans. I've dealt with wolves, avalanches, missing hikers, things that make you question your sanity. But this one still haunts me. Because I responded to a GPS distress call that shouldn't have existed, and found something that changed the way I see the wilderness. It was late October. Snow hadn't fully blanketed the mountains yet, but you could feel winter crouching just over the ridge. I was alone in Station 6, an isolated ranger, outpost deep in the Denali backcountry. Radio tower, weather gear, backup generator, the essentials. At 2:17 a.m., the signal came through. Not on the radio. Not from any emergency beacon we issued. It came through our older system, an abandoned grid we stopped using 5 years ago. Coordinates ping, 63.6821 degrees north. 150.0763 degrees west. Status: distress. I double-checked the system logs. The message wasn't coming from any active device, yet the signal was strong, alive, persistent. But when I entered the coordinates into our modern system, nothing. Blank. No location. No terrain data. Like it didn't exist. My instinct screamed to forward the signal up the chain and wait. But something about it felt off. And I was only about a 3-hour snowmobile ride from that general area. I geared up. Cold weather gear, emergency pack, sidearm, thermal drone, satellite radio. The first leg of the trip was uneventful. Just trees, wind, and untouched snow. But as I closed in on the location, the forest changed. Trees became older, twisted. Bark peeled off in long curls. The snow was oddly thin, like something had melted it. Then, finally, I saw it. A clearing, perfectly circular, about 80 feet wide. At the center, a small concrete building. It was barely a structure, more like a buried bunker. Flat roof, rusted steel door, no windows. Just a faded number painted above the entrance, 22B. The door wasn't locked, just rusted shut. I used my crowbar and forced it open. Inside was pitch black. Concrete floor, low ceiling, dripping condensation. The hallway sloped downward at a slight angle. I activated my headlamp, and almost immediately, my radio crackled again. "Help! I'm still here." I froze. The voice sounded mechanical, like a distorted recording. But it wasn't coming from the radio. It was coming from inside the building. I pressed on. The hall opened into a square room. Looked like an old surveillance or monitoring station. Corroded monitors. Dead terminals, a desk with file drawers. One drawer was open. Inside, a single laminated photo. It showed a man, thin, pale, with sharp features and dull eyes, standing in the same room I was in. He was holding a GPS device. Scrawled across the photo in permanent marker, "Do not respond to coordinates." Another hallway led to a chamber lined with large, locked cabinets. Most were empty, but the air was colder, much colder than outside. My breath fogged heavily. The walls had frost forming on the inside. At the end of the chamber was a heavy door marked "Observation." I pushed it open. Inside was a massive, circular room, like a small arena. Every wall was mirrored, and in the center, a hole. A perfectly round, bottomless shaft, about 6 feet wide. And around it, scratches, deep ones, like something had tried to climb out. I found a tablet in the control booth, somehow still functional. The logs were time-stamped from 2018, but we stopped using this system in 2016. I got shocked after seeing what contained in that log. That's when I heard the voice again, clearer this time. I never left. "Eli." It said my name. I ran, back through the hallway, past the freezing room, through the entry chamber. But as I reached the door, it slammed shut. Hard. Then I heard the scratching. From behind me, in the tunnel, like nails dragging across steel. And a low breathing. Not human. Not animal. Something else. I backed away slowly, until I remembered the thermal drone in my pack. I tossed it down the hall and activated it. What I saw on its feed still gives me nightmares. At first, it picked up nothing, just the corridor. Then, a humanoid shape emerged, gaunt, elongated limbs, pale gray skin. It moved in a staggered way, like it hadn't used legs in years. Its eyes reflected the infrared like metal. No pupils, just white heat. And it was wearing a parka. My parka. The one I lost 3 years ago during a snowstorm in this same region. I threw myself against the door. Again and again. Finally, the rust gave, and I tumbled into the snow. I didn't look back. I didn't wait. I rode the snowmobile so hard I nearly lost control. Back at the outpost, I tried to send the footage from the drone, but the files were corrupted. Only one thing remained: the GPS coordinates. Still active, still broadcasting. I filed a partial report, left out the voice, the creature, the drone feed. I asked HQ if they had records for any site marked 22B. They responded 2 days later. No such facility exists. Your report has been logged. No further action required. But I know what I saw, and I know the signal is still active. It pings every 72 hours. Same time, same location, and every time, it says the same thing. Help, I'm still here. Sometimes, late at night, I scan the old grid, just to check. Last week, I got a new signal. Slightly different location. Same format. And it wasn't a voice this time. It was laughter. Deep, wet, and human. And then it used my name again.